See, I can't tell if I actually liked this show, and yet I drew fan art and now I'm making headcanons for it. So I must have? By the transitive property at least? Let me ask you something. What do you know about the early 2000s American television drama Bones? Maybe everything, maybe nothing at all. Either way, you're gonna hear about it from me. Because I'm absolutely obsessed with myself, I fear I need to go into excessive detail as to how I got into the situation, because honestly, I'm not entirely clear on the matter. Here's the thing. When it comes to propaganda shows, there is a specific brand that my special eyes enjoy. So whenever I'd sift through the many streaming services to find a new show to make my entire personality for the next 2 months, I'd always see Bones. I'd read the 3-sentence synopsis only to find myself not being gravitated by the premise of it, and so I just never checked it out. Just always like something like, oh, that's there. Don't know what it is, don't really care, we're moving on. So I've always like been aware of the name, don't really know what it's about, but I know that it's there if I ever want to watch it. Never felt inclined to whatsoever. That is until I was mindlessly scrolling through TikTok, as one does, and a clip from the pilot episode showed up on my For You page. And this clip in particular was a scene where the main character is getting off of a flight only to get pulled over by Homeland Security because she has a human skull in her bag. I mean, that's one way to grab the audience's attention when they have no context whatsoever. Now, my first thought upon witnessing this was, perhaps I preemptively judged this a little too harshly. I'm a Capricorn INTJ. It happens sometimes. But upon that short little scene, I found myself to be intrigued by it. So I go and I find it on a little streaming service and I go to hit play only to discover that this show is 12 seasons. For what reason, I couldn't tell you, but it is. Now, personally, I have what we in the business like to call commitment issues. And so I told myself watching this, like, there is no way in hell I am watching all 12 seasons, and that is perfectly fine if I dip out around maybe season 4 if I don't find this to be engaging whatsoever. That's what I told myself. And yet here I am, 4 months later, having watched all 12 seasons. Why? It's because of these two. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we're talking about today. There are so many other valid talking points I could go into, such as the poor writing choices when it comes to revealing and developing characters and resolving premises within the show. Example being how they come up with very interesting and compelling antagonists like the Gravedigger, Gormagon, Palant, Little Pepito for a minute there, only to very anticlimactically wrap up their arc in a way that is just so underwhelming. I'm looking at you, season 12, episode 1. What the frick? You could also critique how some of the technology is a little too futuristic and there's no way that that's plausible. Or you could comment how they always do this thing where one character will say something super specific and scientific and atomically correct, only to have another character, usually Cam, say the exact same thing but in simpler terms for us playing at home to understand what the hell they're talking about. Or if you're just trying to goof on them, you could talk about how they had that one season where they just had a ton of undisclosed Prius sponsorships. Honestly, if I did not watch YouTube as much as I did, you probably would not have noticed it, but I swear that it is. I could even go into detail on how I enjoyed some of the reveals and deaths and how they had me absolutely gagged. Or mention the fact that I actually enjoyed how they wrapped up the finale of this show and sort of made it all sense on like why this is the series finale and what this leaves for our characters in this moment in their life. And I actually liked it. I really did. Yeah, I'm not doing all that. The only reason why I watched this fuck-ass show is because I needed to know where this slow burn was going. Valentina, I need to talk. Because listen, 12 seasons is a lot. It is a lot, okay? And this is like when they made actual television, right? I'm talking these 20 episodes per season, and each episode is at least 40 minutes, okay? That is a lot of content you're taking in. And when there's 12 of that, girl, this is proper actual television. None of that Netflix nonsense where you get one season that's split into 2 parts and each part has like maybe 4 episodes and each episode is like 2.5 hours long. I fear we as a society will never recover from the perpetual damage that Stranger Things did to modern day media and television. I'm watching the first few seasons, I'm like, okay, this could either be something immaculate or it could be actually very devastating. And I kind of want to know, I kind of want to see, just because I'm stubborn, I want to know how this ends. So I buckled in for 12 seasons and I watched the show. And I don't know how I feel about it. So that's what this video is for, is to basically process my feelings. Before we get into the gist of this, random disclaimer. There's gonna be spoilers for this show, so if you haven't seen it and you've been wanting to, I would suggest putting this on pause, throw this video in your watch later, and then come back to me in 6 months. Maybe you've already seen this show, or maybe you don't care and you just need some background noise. Cool. I am gonna do my best to give a play-by-play of this love story because you need to understand where my frustrations are coming from. Maybe I'm the only one that feels like this, but I just... Every ship has its characters, and for this one in particular, we have our main two. First off, we have the main character, Dr. Temperance Brennan, the leading forensic anthropologist of the Jeffersonia. Our second main character of this show is Special Agent Seeley Booth, who is an FBI agent that was once a sergeant in the army who worked as a sniper. I know what you're thinking. My God, these names are travesties, but what do you expect? This show is from the early 2000s, okay? They're gonna have the most main character names you've ever heard. Not to mention the fact that Booth in particular, they made him a sniper, right? Who also happens to be related to John Wilkes Booth. So do with that information what you will. Anyways, these are our protagonists. Remember them. They're gonna be the entire talk of this video. So the thing about Brennan and Booth is that they are complete opposites of each other, but because of that, they also complement each other all the same. Brennan is blunt and empirical, and she's an atheist, and she is driven by logic and facts. Booth, on the other hand, is more emotional and sociable, and he's Catholic, and he's driven by his intuition. The things that drive them are really sort of the core things that they often have debates and discussions on, and that is kind of the thing that sort of like builds their relationship and how they grow off of each other. And I like that. They also have their own respective traumas that come into play with their relationships with each other and other people. Brennan, when she was a child, she was abandoned by her parents, and her brothers sort of left her too. So she kind of got thrown into the foster care system, and because of this, she has abandonment issues. And then along with the fact that I don't think they ever confirm her to be autistic, but like throughout the show, she often expresses how she has difficulty engaging with people and understanding social cues and metaphors. That also comes into play with like her relationship with people and how she's often by herself. She's very confident in her abilities and who she is, but her relationship with people at the beginning of the show, they're not very strong. But throughout the process of it and with her relationship with Booth, she's able to strengthen the bonds that she has around others, and it's so great. It's so cute. Oh my God, I love it. Booth, on the other hand, he's got his own special cocktail of trauma. He grew up with an abusive alcoholic father, and so because of that, he often had to defend and protect his younger brother. Then as he grew up, he found himself joining the military, and in the military, he became a sniper and he had to kill people. This is something that he struggles with internally because he never felt comfortable with that, and that's something he struggles with, especially with his faith. He also has a son from a previous relationship, and when his baby mama revealed that she was pregnant, he wanted to do right by her because he loved her, and he's like, hey, let's get married, but she's like, nah, I don't really want to marry you. And so that also kind of like digs into some issues he has with like being good enough, but I'm gonna hit myself here. So all I'll just say is that they have trauma that they work through with their platonic relationship. Yeah. Oh yeah, Booth also developed a gambling problem because he killed people. Yeah, that's like a generalization of what Brennan and Booth are like. The thing about them is that they work as a friends to lovers trope, heavy on the slow burn AO3 tag. Now, when I first watched this show, in the first episode, the two interact with each other strictly platonic, okay? Which is fine. That's perfectly normal. Male and female friendships are possible if you have the right intentions with the person that you're befriending. The thing is, though, is that everyone around them is always like, ooh, oh, are you guys like, eh? They'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, actually, what are you talking about? Like, me personally, I hate it when people are like, oh my God, like, you spend so much time with him. Are you guys like dating? And it's just like, have you ever heard of the concept of friendship? Because it's magic and that's what we have. So I wasn't like against the idea of them being friends. However, when you watch this show, you realize, no, their friends know what's up because you two are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Season 1, episode 15. Brennan gets targeted by the mob because she's the main character. And Booth is obviously upset because A, that's his partner, and B, he's the type of guy who wants to protect the people he cares about. So as a precaution, he decides to stay at Brennan's place to make sure that like nobody's gonna come get her, because like if they try to get her, they gotta mess with the FBI agent that's sleeping on her couch. As they're hanging out, they sort of bond over this song called Hot Blooded, 100 Degree. So they're bonding, they're having a little moment. Pause, y'all. This is the first time she's given any personal information about herself, and look at the way he's looking at her. Oh my God. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. All of a sudden, Booth needs to get a drink, and Brennan's like, oh, I'll get you something. He's like, no, I'm a guest. I can get it. Like, it's no big deal. So he goes to the fridge to get it, only to get hit with an explosion because, oh no, the fridge was rigged by the alleged mob. Why do I say alleged? Because while Booth is in the hospital, healing, shirtless, from his wounds, he figures out that the person behind the hit is not actually the mob. It's somebody else who happens to be the person that's taking care of Brennan. And so Brennan's in danger. And he realizes this and he leaves the hospital. He meets up with the tactical team to go in and save her. Because while Brennan can take care of herself, like Miss Girly Pop knows at least 20 martial arts. She does what she can to get out, but it's still not enough. And she's fearing for her life. So Booth sets up the team. He tells them what they all gotta do. And they said, all right, we got this. He's like, no, I'm going in with you. And so he goes in without a vest because he can't get over his head to find his girl, and he saves her. And because again his arms can't lift up, he decides to swoop in under because her arms are up from like this hook, so he swoops under her arms to get her up. So now they're like in this hugging embrace. My God. And you could be like, okay, well, like, he's trying to, like, get his friend, and, like, you said it yourself, he can't move his arm up in the wind, there's no one gonna get down. I mean, okay, I guess, sure. But 4 episodes later, Brennan has to go down to New Orleans to help out with IDing remains because Katrina hit, but she ends up getting caught up in an investigation, and she can't remember shit. She can't remember how she's involved because Girly Pop wakes up covered in blood with a day missing from her memory. So what does she do? She calls Booth to let her know, like, hey, yeah, I'm in the hospital, I'm all right, but, like, I can't remember anything. So what does he do? He flies down from DC to New Orleans on his off day. Mantis on vacation and he's rushing, making sure she's all right, even though she's like, I told you not to come down here, I'm fine. He doesn't even know that apparently she figured out there's a murder, but that's what she's telling her colleagues, like, yeah, he's here to help me with this murder. He's like, oh shit, I'm helping with murder. Yeah, that's why I'm here to help with the murder. A murder that you totally told me about, and I didn't just come down here because I was so worried. Anyways, let's do a little investigating. They do a little sleuthing to retrace Brennan's steps, and they find out that she may or may not have been involved with a dead body that was pinned to the wall, and the detective on the case tells her, if I find any evidence that links you to this crime, I'm booking you as a suspect. Oh my God, but she's the main character, but Brennan didn't do this. Oh my God, I hope we don't find any evidence. Oh, look at that, it's her mother's earring that got ripped out of her ear that's in the corner of the floor. What are we gonna do? Oh, is that Booth taking critical evidence and pocketed it so his friend won't get linked to the crime? Even though he's an officer of the law and is really big on justice? But he's just looking out for her, you know, like how a friend does. I'm sorry, but there is absolutely nothing platonic about this. Be so freaking for real right now. As the story progresses, Brennan learns the truth about her mother, how she passed away, and is momentarily reunited with her father and her brother before they have to go on the run. Booth receives therapy and learns that he has control issues due to the fact that he shot a clown. Not like an actual clown, it was like a clown on like an ice truck, but he still shot it in like the middle of the day in a busy street. This is America, Lois. He works the trauma of having had to kill people when all he's ever wanted to do was save them. And during this gap where he's unavailable to like go on cases, Brennan works with another FBI agent named Sully. And honestly, if I didn't know that Brennan was gonna end with Booth, because obviously she's gonna end up with Booth, like, be so freaking for real, my guy. It's 12 seasons. Sully was a close second for being Brennan's love of her life, because Brennan is the type of person where she's always wanted to be one thing, so she kind of can't fathom how someone can want to be multiple things, because Sully is a jack of all trades, and he's just like, I don't know if I want to be an FBI agent for the rest of my life. I kind of want to just like travel the world and see some stuff. You know what, babe, you could come with me. And she's like, oh my God, I could? And she's like, yeah, you should. And she's like, wow, maybe I will. JK, I can't. The bones are my life. Oh yeah, also that's kind of the nickname that Booth has for her. It's also the title of the show. Now, you would think that during this time where Brennan dates Sully, that Booth would get this strange feeling where he's like, why do I feel weird about her being with another guy? Like, I don't care because she's my friend. I also get a little frustrated when she holds his hand, and I kind of wish it was mine. Like, why do I feel this way? You would think, but they're grown, so they're not going to. Booth doesn't know what fanfiction.net is. Be so freaking for real right now. I could totally see Hodgins, like, pulling up a fanfic and reading it out loud, and Booth just being like, what? Being utterly confused. Like, Angela's the one who found it, and Hodgins is like, oh, we gotta mess with this guy. Honestly, it'd be so funny! See, I can't tell if I actually liked this show, and yet I drew fan art, and now I'm making headcanons for it, so I must have? by the transitive property at least. Moving forward a little bit. Season 3, episode 14 is really where it kind of ramps up. This episode deals with the case of a murdered aspiring singer, in which one of the suspects is a severely Sasang entry-level Delulu. Also, I've been watching Criminal Minds lately, and this girlie plays another crazy lady in that show. Like, she knows her bag and she's getting it, and I kind of respect that. Oh, you know what else is so crazy? This is so not related, but I just thought it was so funny. In the first season, there's an episode where Josh Keaton makes an appearance, which if you know, you know. Hi, Space Dad. I'm doing YouTube again. I hope you're happy. Anyways, throughout the episode, since it revolves around the topic of open mic and aspiring singers, Brennan discloses the information that she enjoys singing. So Booth manages to score her a slot on the open night, and so everyone from the Jeffersonian comes, they come to watch Brennan do a little song and dance, only for Crazy Lady 3000 to pull up to the function and be all like, no, Booth, look at me. Don't look at Brennan, because, oh yeah, she developed an attachment to Booth. Anyways, because she's delusional and not in the fun, quirky, sexy way, she pulls out a gun and says, Celie, this is for us. And she aims it at Brennan, pulls the trigger, only for Booth to jump in the way and takes the bullet. He falls to the ground because he's been shot. Brennan sees this and she's like, oh my God. And so she takes Booth's gun because, again, she's not allowed to have a gun. And she shoots her because, hello, it's a crazy lady with a gun. Lady drops dead because Brennan's a good shot. And so Brennan goes to Booth, is like, oh my God, Booth, stay with me, Booth, stay with me, and then fades to black. And so I was on the edge of my seat. Next episode plays and it's Booth's funeral. Don't worry, he's not dead. The man's is fine, but he took a bullet for her. At this point, someone has to fall first, and of the two, to make it make sense, it's gotta be Booth, and it ends up being him. How? Throughout season 4, Booth is experiencing hallucinations to the point where he thinks he's engaging with ghosts of his past and fictional characters. It's in episode 25 where we learn that the reason why Booth is having these hallucinations is because he has a benign brain tumor, and so he goes into surgery to get it removed, and it's unclear if it's during the surgery or when he's recuperating that he has a dream, where in the dream, he's not a cop, he's not working for the FBI, he just owns a club. He owns a club, and he's also married to Brennan. Okay. But that's not it, folks. When he wakes up from this dream sequence, everything's changed. His entire perspective on his relationship with this woman is now changed because something happened in his brain where now he has supercharged feelings for Brennan. Like every time I see Brennan, his brain go brr. Me with Leon Kennedy, I'm gonna be so real right now. Not wanting to ruin the friendship because we've all been there, he decides to keep his feelings to himself. That is until Booth and Brennan sit down with Sweets to clear up some incorrections within his manuscript. Now, Sweets works as a profiler for the FBI. He's also a psychologist, and he gets assigned to Brennan and Booth earlier on in the show when he makes his appearance as their therapist. And the deal is he'll clear them to go on like cases and stuff so long as he uses them as his case study for his book. And he does that. And so he gives them a copy of his book, and they're both like, this is absolutely wrong. First of all, we're not in love, and also you got our first case wrong. This is the part where I'm like, what do you mean we got their first case wrong? Like, your first case was the pilot episode, right? No! Apparently it's not. Apparently their first case was completely different than how we assumed it was in the pilot episode. They go through their first ever case and they explain how they met and how they almost hooked up, but they decided not to because they decided, nah, we wouldn't work together. Like, this between us, like, we're so different. Like, there's no way. Like, are you freaking kidding me right now?
Do you believe in fate?
Absolutely not. I still don't.
And I still do.
I cannot take another season of you two verbally edging each other.
Anyways, at the end of this episode, Booth makes the first step. He makes the decision to confess his feelings to Brennan and says, I want to take a shot at this because I was right at the beginning. I knew the minute I saw you that you were the one for me. And he lays it out there for her. And Brennan, you have to remember, Brennan has issues. She is not at the point where she can be open and honest about the idea of them together because what they have to her, she is afraid that she's gonna mess it up and do something to make him want to leave her because, again, girlie's got abandonment issues, which, you know, is a valid concern that you could work out if you had therapy. But of course she doesn't believe in therapy because she doesn't believe in psychology, which honestly, you know how much I would love a crossover episode with her and Criminal Minds. Like, she would be, I don't know, what would she do with the BAU? Because she'd be like, all you guys do is think. You're not actually looking at any actual forensic scientist. Like, how do you do your job? Like, I don't understand. And they'd be like, well, see, the reason why you're like this. I'm watching Criminal Minds for the first time and it's kind of taken a chokehold of my attention span. Anyways, Brennan shuts him down and Booth is like, that's fine, but I gotta move on. How does he move on? He decides to take a job within the military where he's going to be training cadets. So while he's doing that, Brennan decides to go on a year-long expedition to the Maluku Islands to do some anthropology stuff. So they go their separate ways to inevitably meet each other again a year later. Cut to season 6 when it's only been 7 months into their separation. The band has to get back together to help Cam save her job. So they solve the case, and during this, Brennan realizes that she has feelings for Booth, which we all knew was coming. Like, come on, the man of your dreams confesses to yourself, and now you're like out in the middle of nowhere and you're rethinking like, wow, I really miss Booth. Oh my god, wait, am I in love with him? Oh my god, I'm in love with him. So she realizes she's in love with him. But oh no, what's this? Booth has a girlfriend. He said he was moving on and he's really happy with her. Her name is Hannah and they met overseas and she's really cool. Oh yeah, Brennan actually gets along with her. Like, they're really good buds. Like, there's no way. Like, Brennan would never be the type of person to be like, Booth, I'm in love with you. You should dump her. Booth. Like, she doesn't have the capacity to do that. Booth dates Hannah. They move in very quickly. Like, he's moving really fast in this relationship to the point where he proposes to her because he loves her. Hannah doesn't want to get married. So she shuts him down, and this is his breaking point. Brennan consoles him, and Booth decides to call off all women, which honestly, I get a little, whatever, matter like, oh, you women, but like, I feel like in this case with Booth, it's understandable why he's very frustrated because he's constantly putting himself out there on the line to try to make a real connection because he wants to get married and he wants to have a family, have a significant other in his life. And so when he meets these women that say they love him and say that he's everything, and only for him to like go all the way and for them to be like, no, like, it's understandable why he'd be very frustrated. And so this is a very emotional moment for him, and Brennan is very empathetic and she's very considerate of his feelings here, and they're back to being best buds. Like, the awkwardness is gone. Like, they're besties again. Now you'd think this is the part where the big gesture happens and honest confession is made and where everything is laid out on the table because the two of them are facing death and they need to face the realizations of their feelings, and no better time when the clock is ticking on them and they could have everything to lose, and that everything to lose is themselves. You think that this is the next step because that would be the logical step in a slow burn, okay? That would be what makes sense. You would think. No, that is not at all what happened. In concession of this, the next big baddie plot is a sniper plot, which I was very confused when I found out that this was not Michael Keaton. What do you mean? Anyways, there's a sniper plot that leads to Booth having to stay with Brennan after a loss in the team. And during this time, again, they're very emotionally vulnerable. I guess they spend the night together. I didn't quite believe it because, you know, Brennan is very literal whenever she talks about something. So when she says that they slept together, they just slept in the same bed, right? They didn't actually, like, have, like, intercourse. Like, they didn't, like, sleep with each other. They just slept in the same bed, right?
I'm pregnant.
You lost me. You're telling me all of that buildup, all of that tension, all of that work we did to get to the point where we could have the most moment where they lay their hearts on the line for each other and they push past their fears to be with each other. You're telling me all of that is reduced to an off-screen fade to black?
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just...
This is the part where I decided, do I keep watching? Because I've never been so dissatisfied as a customer. Because what do you mean? They're dating, cohabitating in preparation for the baby. And, you know, Booth wants to get married, but Brennan doesn't believe in the institute of marriage, which she's so real for. Because Brennan, you know, she's an anthropologist and she studies cultures and humans, and she's always been that person where you don't necessarily need to, like, get married to, like, be fulfilled in life, which she's so real. If that's what you want in your life, then go for it, babe. But, you know, Booth is. But, you know, he's in love with Brennan and they're having a kid together and he wants to be in the kid's life because if my man is one thing, he is a father. He loves being a dad and he wants to be in this baby's life. But he also loves Brennan and Brennan loves him. And so he's like, I'm not proposing to you. Like, you're gonna propose to me. And she's like, as if. There's this plot with Palat, and in such, Brennan goes on the run with the baby, and this affects Booth because, like, again, he wants to be someone that, like, you can come to him and trust. And so, like, for her to leave him, he'd be like, you don't, babe, But they work through that because they have pretty decent communication skills, which I honestly applaud them for. It's during the plot that Brennan realizes that, like, oh my god, Booth is the one for me. I love him so much, I couldn't even fathom being with someone else. I need to marry this man. I need to marry the man. So she proposed to him, I think, with beef jerky in her hand, which I don't fully understand because I could have swore that she was a vegetarian, but what do I know? I could be completely wrong on that aspect. And, you know, Booth is ecstatic because he loves this girl and he wants to marry this girl. Oh my god, he was right. Like, oh my god, you proposed to me. So he's like, yes, babe. But because Palant is crazy and he's obsessed with Brennan because, hello, she's the main character of the show, he needs to be the focal point in her life. So Palat calls up Booth. He's like, hey, you need to turn down that marriage right now, because if you do get married to her, I'm gonna kill these random people in the park. That person there, that one over there. Oh yeah, that one there. They're all gonna die if you don't turn down the girly, because I should be the most important person in your life. Some crazy person that you don't actually know that well, but is always killing people because I am the drama. Also, Booth can't tell Brennan why he's turning down her proposal, because if he does, those people will die. So he just tells her vaguely, yeah, I can't marry you. I can still date you, but I can't marry you at this time. And this does take a little strain on the relationship, but again, they have great communication skills, and Brennan is smart, so she's like, no, wait, I know my mans. And if my mans is suddenly telling me he can't marry me when that's the only thing he wants, he must have a reason. So I'm gonna stick by him on this, and I'm gonna see how it goes. And she was so real for that, and I'm so glad, because I'm so sick of people not using their cognitive abilities of like, wait a minute, why is this person I've known for a very long time doing something that's so out of character? Instead of like getting upset and getting mad out of proportion, I'm gonna sit here and think about it. Anyways, they work past that, and they end up resolving the plot, very underwhelming as all these plots are, and they get married. Yay! Wow! As the show goes on, Booth goes to jail for something he didn't do. He gets out of it. They work through the trauma. He gets re-addicted to his gambling issues, but then he works through it. It's fine. And then they have another kid, and then there's this other issue, and then there's death in the family, and da-da-da-da. But it's fine by the end of it. They live happily ever after. The end. This show is classified as a drama, and I really wish they stuck with that premise, because I find that while I enjoyed the relationship between Booth and Brennan and their growth with each other and different beliefs and how they're able to have very honest and open discussions about them and how they're able to compromise for the sake of each other and the love that they have for each other and their family, I found it to be so underwhelming. I shouldn't be really surprised, because honestly, from what I said at the beginning, where the show struggles with making writing decisions, it shows with this slow burn. I was totally enthralled with it, because they were doing such a good job with the pacing, the subtle changes with the characters, and the growth that they had throughout the show. Like, I was eating it up. It was so good, okay? I was just like, it was immaculate. Only to get to the climax of it, and it just immediately fall flat. Part of me was like, okay, well, maybe the reason why they're doing this is like in a way it makes sense in conjunction with the characters, but I don't care. No, you are classified as a drama, so be the drama. Girl, you are never going to guess what I just stumbled across. Okay, I had originally done my little interruption where I gave extra unwanted context as to why I think the romance between Brennan and Booth is a good example at the poor writing skills that they often make in this show. And my reasoning for that was because the romance between Brennan and Booth ultimately was great. We were all intrigued, all engaged, and then finally we get to the big moment, the big reveal, and it just fell flat. That whole shebang that I just described is seen constantly throughout this show with some of the overarching villains, bad guys, antagonists, whatever you want to call them, that occur in some seasons. Like, what they would do is they would introduce to you this really interesting bad guy that the team would have to catch, and then finally when you get to the point where you have to reveal who they are, suddenly it's some random person that we've never met, or some rando across the hall that's, oh, yep, that's the bad guy. Like, bro, my issue with this is because it does not work with the show, because the way that the show works, in each episode where Brennan and Booth are given a case, if the characters are not from the Jeffersonian or the FBI, or do not have a credit in the opening theme song, anyone who's not from those categories are a suspect in that said case. Someone that we meet with throughout that episode is going to be the culprit. So when you get to the last 6 to 7 minutes of the episode and they unmask who the culprit is, you as the audience know who it is because, oh yeah, you met them earlier on. That's the structure of the show. So whenever they have these super bad guys that appear often throughout the season and then not fall through with the already established structure they had, it always fell flat and I didn't like it. So that's what I thought they did with this romance, because it all adds up. You had me in the first half, I'm not gonna lie, and then you fumbled it. That's what I thought had happened. But no, apparently the writers were always thinking about how are we gonna get these two together finally. Like, they always had in the back of their mind. And the only reason why they went with the pregnancy trope is because the actress who plays Brennan in the show, Emily Deschanel, got pregnant in real life. And so they felt the only appropriate answer was to incorporate that with the storyline of Brennan and Booth's romantic relationship. Of all the choices that you could have taken a season off. You had 12 of them. You had 12 seasons and you're telling me you couldn't take one? You couldn't take, how long is maternity leave? How long is how do you spell maternity? 12 weeks. That's crazy. What are you supposed to do with 12 weeks? You couldn't take a year off. You couldn't take time off. So this lady could have her baby and then get back to the show. Like, I'm sure y'all were paying her enough. What? Oh my God. You should have had her in the Maluku Islands longer. The only reason why I even know this information now is because when I was looking for a thumbnail, I accidentally clicked on the image and ended up here reading this article that explains it. So thank you, collider.com/bones-brennan-booth-relationship/ I don't really agree with your take on Brennan being reduced to a woman who needs to be saved from subtle judgment of motherhood, because she's absolutely not like that, even though she ends up with the house and the kids and the husband. Don't really agree with that because she's still kind of the same strong woman at the end of it, but thank you for relaying this information. Maybe I should have fact-checked this before I made this video. Hold on. Get together because Emily D. Chanel got pregnant. How do you spell pregnant? I never thought I'd be doing this long and that I'd be having a child while this was all happening, or that they write that in. Oh my God, so she didn't, even she's just like, wait, why? This is from the Hollywood Reporter, by the way. Oh my goodness. I'm getting distracted now and I need to wrap this video up. Anyways, now that I have this information and I've shared it with the rest of the class, I don't know what to do with it. So that's your burden to bear now. I feel like I personally would have enjoyed it a little bit more if they had made better choices with the way that this went, because I was having a great time. But then it's like you pulled me aside and said, oh, by the way, Yoongi has to do another 5 years of service. Anyways, that's all I have to say on the matter. I hope you enjoyed the video. If not, well, don't let me know that because I will cry. Actually, I won't. I don't care. I just want to say, if you got to this point, your drawing looks so good. Oh my God, you're getting so much better at your line art, babes. This video was such a niche topic, and I realize that now, and maybe nobody cares. Maybe one person does. Either way, I needed to know how I felt about this, and I'm not sure if I wasted my time watching this show. I don't think I did. I enjoyed it. I had a good time, like, for the most part. Like, it was a little rocky in the beginning because I was having nightmares because there was so many dead bodies. Because even though they're fake dead bodies, it's still a dead body. A body has been discovered. Okay, I'm done. I need to wrap this up. I'm getting to the point where my brain is running out of yaps to say. Until next time, my dream believers and adventure seekers. Bye!